Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, prices keep rising, debts keep growing, and saving money feels almost pointless? Why is it that governments can print billions overnight, but you get punished for missing a single loan payment? Why is your money losing value every year, while the wealthy somehow always get richer during crises? This is not an accident. This is by design. Because for centuries, governments have perfected a system, a beautiful, invisible machine, that quietly transfers wealth from the many to the few, while making you believe it's all just economics. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain to see the financial tricks governments use to keep you poor. Stay with me, because once you see how the system really works, you can never unsee it. Let's start with something simple: money itself. What is money? Most people think it's wealth. It's not. It's debt. Yes, your dollar, your euro, your 10 som note, it's not a store of value. It's a promise. A promise issued by your government that says, we owe you something. And what happens when that promise loses credibility? They make a new one. That's exactly what happened in 1913, when the United States created the Federal Reserve, a private central bank with the power to print money. The idea was to stabilize the economy. But over the next century, it became the greatest wealth transfer machine in human history. Every time there's a crisis, governments stimulate the economy by printing more money. But here's the trick: they don't print wealth. They print claims on wealth. So, when the government creates $1 trillion out of thin air, the rich, who own assets, see those assets go up in price. Meanwhile, your salary? It stays the same. And that's how inflation silently robs you, every single day. Inflation is not some natural phenomenon like the weather. It's policy. It's a tool. Governments love inflation, because it's the perfect tax. It doesn't need a vote, it doesn't need permission, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Think about it. If they raised your taxes by 10%, there'd be protests in the streets. But if your money loses 10% of its value? You don't complain, you just call it the cost of living. History is full of examples. In 1923, during the Weimar Republic, Germany printed so much money that people used wheelbarrows full of cash to buy bread. Middle-class families lost everything overnight, while the government wiped out its debt in real terms. In 1971, U.S. President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard, meaning the dollar was no longer backed by gold. Overnight, money became completely fiat, value by decree. That single move allowed unlimited money printing. Since then, the US dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. And yet, they call it economic growth. But wait, if inflation makes people poorer, why do governments keep doing it? Because inflation helps them pay their debts. They borrow in today's money, and repay in tomorrow's, cheaper money. You just keep paying higher prices, while your savings melt away. Here's another trick: national debt. You've heard the numbers, trillions upon trillions. But who actually owns that debt? About a quarter of it is held by foreign nations: Japan, China, the UK. But the majority? It's owned domestically, by banks, pension funds, and the central bank itself. In other words, the government owes money to the system that it controls. It's like owing yourself money, and charging interest for it. This creates an illusion of responsibility: we must borrow to fund our programs. But in reality, it's a loop, a financial treadmill that keeps the population running in place. Every dollar of debt is a dollar of money created. Debt creates money. And money creates more debt. That's why you'll never see the debt go down. It's not meant to. It's meant to grow forever, because that's how the system breathes. So the more they borrow, the more we owe, and somehow, they call that progress. Yes. Because as long as the people are in debt, they're easy to manage. You can't revolt when you're too busy paying bills. Let's talk about taxes, the oldest trick in the book. When income tax was first introduced in Britain in 1799, it was temporary, just to fund the war against Napoleon. Temporary. It never went away. Today, it's one of the main ways governments extract wealth directly from citizens. But here's the irony: the rich often pay less, proportionally, than the middle class. How? Because they don't earn money the same way you do. You earn through labor, wages, which are heavily taxed. The wealthy earn through assets, capital gains, dividends, and real estate, which are taxed much lower. So while you work harder, they just let inflation and markets do the work for them. And governments design it that way, because the wealthy fund campaigns, control media, and provide stability. They tell you taxes build roads and schools, but where does the bailout money go? In 2008, trillions were created overnight to rescue the banks. In 2020, during the pandemic, trillions more were printed again. Did you get richer? Or did your grocery bill double? Every empire in history has played the same game. Ancient Rome debased its silver coins, mixing them with cheaper metals, until their value collapsed. In France, before the Revolution, the monarchy printed assignats backed by confiscated land, which quickly became worthless. In 20th century Latin America, hyperinflation destroyed entire economies overnight. Each time, it started with promises: "We're doing this for stability." Each time, the result was the same: wealth flowed upward, and ordinary people paid the price. And guess what? It's happening again. Today, governments and central banks print trillions, manipulate interest rates, and blame global events. But behind the headlines, the pattern is the same: debt, inflation, control. So what can you do? You can't stop inflation. You can't vote away debt. But you can understand the game. Because once you see how governments use financial illusions to keep citizens trapped, through inflation, taxation, and debt, you stop being a pawn. You start thinking like the players. History shows that every monetary system eventually collapses under its own weight. But each collapse also creates a new opportunity, for those who see it coming. Educate yourself. Don't just save, own. Don't just earn, invest in real assets. And never forget, the more complex they make the system, the more they hope you'll stop asking questions. But the truth is simple. Money isn't power. Understanding it is. If you found this eye-opening, make sure to share it. Because the more people understand how money really works, the harder it becomes for the system to keep us blind.